I absolutely love 3D miniatures for tabletop RPGs. A few weeks ago, I did a video on getting started with 3D miniatures. I'll put a link to that one right up at the top there. I love painting them, I love shopping for them, I love 3D printing them, and I absolutely adore the feeling of putting them out on the table, wowing the players with all the hard work you've put in and kind of the spectacle of the scene. When it comes down to it, I'm a grown man who still likes to play with toys. However, I definitely recognize that miniatures are very time-consuming to paint. I certainly don't have time when game night is looming to paint up a whole batch of miniatures in most cases. If you're buying pre-painted miniatures, that's getting pretty costly, and even buying unpainted ones is adding a fair amount of expense to your tabletop RPG hobby. Storing them can be kind of a pain, transporting them without breaking things. All these disadvantages lead to the viability of some really great alternatives to 3D miniatures that still give you the advantages, like a tactical feel to your game where you can see everything and there is clarity about the locations. There can be more strategizing and hiding behind things in the environment, and it makes things like movement speed and weapon range matter a little bit more when you actually have stuff out on the table like that. But before we get to the alternatives, I will say I actually do like playing theater of the mind as well, when you're just using your words to describe things and everyone is picturing things in their head. I made a video on why I like that and how to do it effectively a while back, and I'll put a link to that one right up there as well. But now, let's start simple with our alternatives with things that you already have around the house. Now, it does help to have a battle mat of some kind, maybe with 1-inch hexes or squares. But once you have that, one thing you probably have at the ready that could represent monsters or player characters are dice. If you have a large dice collection, it can be a great way to go. I've definitely done it before where I have kind of some multicolored dice that are representing the player characters. Maybe they're all D4s or D6s, and then my monsters are all green dice or red dice or something like that. You could also use coins. Again, we're just going for anything that can represent player characters or NPCs or adversaries. Now, I will say that for any of these really simple alternatives, you can always use more elaborate 3D miniatures for your player characters and then use some of the simpler things for their adversaries. So you've got your player characters, and then maybe the monsters are candy. For example, Skittles, Smarties, M&Ms, I don't know. And then when the player characters beat them, they get to eat them. I've never done it myself. I've heard of groups doing it. Seemed a lot more viable pre-2020, but I suppose if you're sanitizing your hands well, it could be okay. Now, while it's not a very cost-effective way to build your miniature collection, I will say that a lot of people have Lego figurines sitting around the house. So it certainly wouldn't hurt to dig through your Lego bin and see if you have any that are suitable for your RPG table. And who says you can't use some little bits of wall or rocks or trees from your Lego collection as well to represent terrain in the environment. One other thing you might have around the house is just some little pawns or meeples or something like that for one of your board games. So anyway, these are really great alternatives when you just need something to represent your player characters and the adversaries. But now let's get to some things that are a little more RPG specific. The first option here is generic RPG tokens. Little tokens that just have simple symbols on them. Maybe it's a bow for the ranger, a sword and shield for the paladin, etc. I've seen these for sale on Etsy. I have also seen 3D printable versions. So if you have a 3D printer, you could certainly 3D print these. You could even paint them up or use different color filament or resin. These are really great if you're a portable DM and you're always on the go. Just to have some of these really versatile generic RPG tokens that still kind of elevate things over just using coins or dice. Now, before we get to the next alternative, I want to give a shout out to my sponsor for this video, dScryb. dScryb is an amazing tool for helping GMs create immersion at the table with less prep. In addition to their incredible read aloud text by their professional team of writers, the maps with descriptive text tagged to each location, now dScryb has something new and incredible. It's a huge sonic library full of great music, sound effects, and ambience for your tabletop. The same great descriptions that make you sound way more polished and prepped than you actually are, now many of those have sound integrated with them. You can also create compositions for various locations in your world that will allow you to stay more organized and efficient in your prep, gathering all of these elements together. Also, all of these elements are compatible with Foundry VTT. They have a lot of tools available for free, but if you do opt for a paid account, make sure you use code WASD20 for $5 off. All right, next up, let's talk about some of the 2D standee style miniatures out there. First up, one of my favorites, Pathfinder Pawns. These are really great. There are some that come with the Pathfinder beginner box. I happen to have the first edition beginner box, and I think the second edition comes with quite a few of these as well. That is a great start, but you can also buy other packs, some that are associated with certain campaigns, like my Rise of the Rune Lord set here, or just big boxes that are full of monster pawns or NPC pawns, etc. I like these because they use the Pathfinder art, which is always really high quality art. There's nice vibrant colors and they're super durable, thick cardboard. So definitely a good way to go. They also make bigger bases. I don't happen to have any on hand here. And they're really simple. They just slide right into the black base and you're good to go. My beginner box ones I just store in Ziploc bags, and my Rise of the Rune Lords ones I store in the original kind of stack here. It's almost like a book. Another really great 2D standee style are Geek Tank Games minis, or GTG minis. These are really nice. I love the bright, vibrant art. They're actually from the artist behind Printable Heroes, and they're just a nice, thin plastic, super portable, very flat, and yet also still really durable. Now, with some of the really big ones, I had a hard time getting them into their bases, so I feel like that is a design issue they need to fix, but for the smaller ones, I had no trouble whatsoever. So I still definitely recommend them. And I actually have an affiliate account with them, and my viewers get a discount as well, so go ahead and check that out, link down in the video description. Geek Tank Games also makes these really cool tabletop tokens, so they've got tons of great, vibrant, colorful solutions to represent things on your tabletop. One of my viewers on the last video also mentioned Dungeon in a Box Skinny Minis. I don't have any experience with these, but they also look pretty good. So shop around out there, you'll definitely find lots of great 2D miniatures. And by the way, you can definitely make your own 2D standee style miniatures as well. I've seen many great tutorials. I think I remember seeing one from Black Magic Craft and Wylock, and if I can find those, I'll put links down in the video description. But there's also Printable Heroes, who has a Patreon, and if you don't want to purchase the Geek Tank Games minis, which I think are awesome, you want to try to make them yourself, you can definitely do that. I think Printable Heroes has some tutorials on recommended methods for that, and there's definitely some videos out there on YouTube. So I love the 2D standee style because it's got that element of verticality that kind of pops out of the table as you're playing. However, there are a lot of great flat tokens out there as well. 1985 Games, who has sponsored some of my videos in the past, they have lots of battle mats and these kind of packs of terrain for your tabletop. It's all flat. And they also have included with those often little tokens that you can cut out that represent player characters or monsters. So check out 1985 Games and use coupon code WASD20 and get a little discount. There's also a company called Tactical Tokens that has sent me some stuff in the past. They're kind of this shiny, thick, rubbery plastic. They stick together really nicely, and they've got some that have some nice color art, or you can get plain ones and label them yourself. Lastly, several years ago, I put out a video on how to make your own tokens, and that video did very well, but at the time, I didn't know about, or maybe it didn't exist yet, a tool called Token Stamp Editor. I made these little guys in Google Drawings, and I had a template that I was sharing with people on how to do that, but nowadays, I don't think that makes any sense. Just go Google Token Stamp Editor. I'll put a link in the video description as well. And you can make tokens whether you use them digitally, which I have done a lot in my virtual tabletop, or you can get those images and then print them out and stick them to, well, in this case, I used washers, 1-inch washers. But if I were to do it again, I would probably recommend getting a huge pack of wooden discs. You can get those at your local craft store or fabric store sometimes. You could buy a big pack on Amazon. Maybe you get some 1-inch discs, you get some 1.5 and 2-inch discs as well to represent larger creatures. So yeah, go nuts. You can use Token Stamp Editor. You can just look for images out there on the internet. As long as it's only for personal use, you should be okay. One final alternative I will mention that kind of gets us into a different realm is using a virtual tabletop, even if you are playing in person. Yeah, I know it's not ideal. Sometimes we want to get back to the tactile, get rid of our screens and all that stuff. But I know that my school's RPG club will often project a map just because we happen to have classroom projectors, and then they're just using digital tokens, maybe made in Token Stamp Editor or maybe found through other sources online. My personal favorite VTT, just because it's so very simple, is Owlbear Rodeo. It's very unfancy, it doesn't have very many features, and that's what I like about it. It's been a while since I've used it, but I believe the website is still owlbear.rodeo. And in addition to like projecting things or showing it on your TV, of course, a lot of people out there have built their own custom game tables that have a slot for a flat screen TV. You can put a sheet of plexiglass over it, and you've got a pretty awesome playing surface that's ready to go. You can put physical miniatures on that thing, or you can just use digital tokens and represent things that way. But hey, if you have other ideas for great alternatives to 3D miniatures for tabletop RPGs, I would love to hear your thoughts down in the comments. Just let me know. Before we go, I do want to thank the WASD20 patrons. Patrons are people who support the channel on a monthly basis. They are the lifeblood of the channel. Patrons get some pretty cool rewards as well, so go check it all out over at patreon.com/WASD20. If you like this video, make sure you leave it a like. Make sure you're subscribed for more content like this. And everybody take care. You'll see me again very soon.